social distancing and talking about this issue. I do want to also just very quickly say hi to my two girls, A and K Farissa, who are watching at home with their dad and who made me a lovely cake this afternoon. I have a slice with me, girls. And it said, I love you on it, and I love you both more. So, like everybody else, I guess, probably pretty much people all around the world, I saw the footage of what happened to George Floyd a few weeks ago. And like everybody else, it had a huge impact on me. 8 minutes and 46 seconds, which I couldn't get out of my head. And I also knew that I never wanted to see it ever again. Once was already way too much. I started to see posts about a tide rising up against it. I posted my first post on it probably about a week ago. And I don't really know what I expected at the time. But I kind of just thought, if we can get a movement going like the Clap for Carers NHS one, that would at least be a start. It would show the world that we were standing with others in the world for what we see as just the right thing. And like everybody else, I check my posts to see how they're doing. It's a normal part of social media. And I didn't check that post until about 11 p.m. that night. I got into bed and I quickly flicked over to have a look. And I remember just feeling really funny about the lack of likes it had received and that there'd been no engagement on it whatsoever. But that was it. It just felt funny. I was tired. I went to sleep. But I woke up at about 3 a.m. with my heart slamming in my chest. And that reel of that video footage still in my damn head. And I turned to my phone, as I often do when I can't sleep, which I know is a really bad habit, but I do. And I checked that post again. And there were a few more likes, but again, nothing much. It was still fairly low-key. And I started to read stuff on the internet. I read the story of Breonna Taylor again. And I read the story of Ahmaud Arbery again. And I read Chris Cooper's story. And I listened to a podcast on Chris Cooper as well. And I still couldn't get back to sleep. And I went back to that post with that funny feeling still inside me. And that's when I started to type. I'm one of those people who it helps me to write things down and to get to the root of the problem, but I don't normally put what I feel on social media. And it probably took me the best part of an hour to write that post. I was really, really aware how sensitive everyone is. I didn't want to cause any offence or hurt to all my Facebook friends and family. I didn't want to be seen as calling anybody out. I was just simply wondering why that post wasn't having any impact. I mean, there was a man that was dead in the most horrific way you can imagine. So it took me forever to press the post button, and I kept checking and changing it. I didn't want to come across as all the stereotypes of women like me, feisty, that's fine, I'll take that. But I didn't want to be misinterpreted as angry, aggressive, rude, oversensitive, blah, 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 blah. You've heard them all before. You have probably even said some of them yourself. But I finally posted, and it's often the case when I've written things down, I found that I finally got some relief from the funny feeling, and I fell back asleep. And I didn't look at that post the next morning. To be honest, I was actually really annoyed with myself that I put myself out there and made myself vulnerable, because I don't do things like that these days. So I was homeschooling my youngest when a dad came in and said he'd just read my post and had I seen the comments, and my response was, oh, have I upset a load of people and caused myself unnecessary trouble? And he just said, no, Janet, no, you need to go and take a look. But I still didn't want to, and I waited until early afternoon when I was in the office to finally pluck up the courage and start to have a look. And that's where you found me, so when you arrived, with my head in my phone, reading all the comments. And I think I said something like, shit, so what have I started? People are asking me stuff. And I started to see that people wanted to talk, they had questions, they were worried about what to say, what not to say, how they could help. My Facebook Messenger page started to fill up, my WhatsApp page started to fill up. I basically packed my pants, if I'm honest. I am not the person to do this, I was saying. I can get angry, I'm slightly hysterical sometimes when it comes to this stuff. My head wobbles, my eyes flash, My arms take on a life of their own, really. I am not the person to be asking about these things. But eventually, as the messages kept coming and that post kept on going, I decided that I would at least comment back and say, I don't know what to do. I don't have the answers. But I am going to stand up in solidarity at 7 p.m. on Thursday night with others around the world, so please join me if you want to in Library Gardens. And the post went quiet. Suddenly everybody just didn't see that. I don't know what happened. People didn't comment and say, I'll be there. 4 people did. They know who they are. And we went off to Library Gardens and we got a bit of traction. It was muted. We took some photos. But just before we'd gone off to Library Gardens, it was then that me and Sophie decided as flock that what we could do to help. And it's at this stage that I'm just going to do a very quick disclaimer. Flock and me, we are not affiliated with Temple Donuts in Leeds. Neither is Sam Davis, who is a very good friend of Soph's and someone I've got a lot of respect for. We basically linked to their idea of holding an open and safe forum, and we wanted to acknowledge that. It was their idea that we'd nicked. That's it. Say no more on the matter. So we made the video to say that we would be doing this tonight, and I genuinely did not expect this response. I've literally been overwhelmed. I have had information and resources flying to me from all directions. I haven't been able to keep up. I've been calling people the wrong names when I've responded. There's been so much information flooded in. I've spoken to so many people and I've heard so many stories that it breaks my heart. I have been completely absorbed by the strength of feeling about this issue on both sides of the argument, and I've been on my own journey these past 10 days or so. The outpouring of grief and pain have almost finished me. I don't think I had any idea of the damage to me and my black brothers and sisters that has been done to us over the years. I'm not here to cry and make people feel bad, but it's overwhelming. My mental health has suffered. I found myself crying. I found myself overwhelmed with a sense of despair so often. So many of us have been broken and pulled down. Strong black people who I've known all my life have not been able to cope with what's happened and have had to protect their own mental health as a result. So many of us have been forced to revisit so many buried feelings and fears, and we are in pain. The unprecedented response from around the world to George's death has given us strength and courage to keep on keeping on. I want to say thanks to all the people who have shared, spoken up, sent messages of support and love. I want to give special thanks to my mate, Urban Mohammed. He'll always be Herbs to me. We've known each other since we were young teenagers. He's quietly been sending me resource after resource after resource. I want to say thank you to Janet Plummer, my beautiful poetry mate, who has done the same, quietly holding me up behind the scenes. Thanks to Soph, who captured why Black Lives Matter so poignantly in a beautifully written poem. And she's asked me question after question and worked tirelessly with me this week. She has no idea what having her around has meant to me these last few days. And I want to send oceans of love to my Oceans of Love posse, who I think all are in the room tonight. I want to say thanks to Sarah Saunders, who I had the most cathartic conversation with last night over the phone and who gave me the energy to face today. And most of all, I want to say thanks to my sister Yvette. She's one of the strongest people I know. And she's been one of many who has been struggling so much with her pain. This is not meant to happen, by the way, but as a black person, as you can see, this is emotionally draining. It's been exhausting. It's not an easy thing to speak about this issue, and I've cried rivers, and I am tired. But I am happy to have any conversation and ask any questions that will help. I don't want my girls to grow up in a society where they are disadvantaged because of the colour of their skin. So I'm here to answer questions if I can, because we will never solve the problem unless and until we are ready to talk with honesty, integrity, generosity and courage. My views are my own. I cannot and I do not speak for every black person. But I hope I can give you some insight tonight into what it's like to walk in our shoes. I'll be relying on a lot of resources, all the ones that I talked about earlier on. So bear with me if I'm looking for something in particular and I start shuffling all these papers that are spread around all over the place. I have no memory to retain details, especially when I'm emotional. I am not here to judge anybody. I want you to ask me your questions. I want us to work together and find a way forward in the situation we all find ourselves in. I've probably talked for way longer than I planned, and I know you want to ask your questions. I'm going to let Sophie do some housekeeping, and then we'll get started.
Thank you, Janet. There are so many people just sending you messages of encouragement and love, and your bravery just then is, and your honesty, I think, is something we can all learn from. So we're here tonight, as Janet says, to have an open conversation. That is really crucial. We are creating a platform to allow you to ask questions. However, there are some rules, and the first rule is that we will not accept any hateful or insightful language of any kind. Please remember to use kindness when you're asking your questions. Janet, as you can see, is open and prepared and generous enough to give of her time and of herself to answer your questions. However, if Janet does not wish to answer one, that is fine. Now, I might not know, I won't know until the questions come in and I ask Janet whether or not that may or may not be the case. If that is the case, and Janet says, I'm not answering that question, that is the end of the discussion, okay? I don't want any backwards and forwards. It is phenomenal tonight. I know that we have some brilliant, brilliant allies in the room. You all know who you are. We want to make sure that we can encourage conversation, that we can encourage questioning. So please, if someone asks something that we might normally call out, please allow them the space to be able to do that. Feel free to add educational links and that kind of thing, but we're trying to make this a positive and helpful space for each other. Okay, as we're in lockdown, we're in this weird social distancing thing, and we're trying to do this across two platforms. So I have Facebook over here, and I have Insta over here, who I'm not even sure can see me entirely. It's been tricky. Instagram, I'm speaking directly to you. The phone is a long way away and I cannot see it. So please, if you have questions, please send us a direct message. That is for Instagram only. Please send us a direct message on Instagram. I'm going to be checking the phone for that. Facebook, please put it in the comments. Okay, I will be checking the comments for questions in there. Okay, so that's that bit.
Instagram as well, you only get an hour live. So
Yes.
we will try to log you back in. If you can transfer to Facebook, brilliant. If you can't, in about an hour's time, if someone just tells us it's nearly 8 o'clock, that would be great, and we will try and get Insta back in.
Yes, we will. Thank you, you're right. So my role here, I am going to be managing the tech kind of side of things as best as I can, and fielding the questions to Janet. I'm also here as Janet's friend and Janet's ally, and I personally have learnt so much from you and from the education that you have encouraged me to take into myself. And I know that there are things that I have said and done in the past that were wrong. That were wrong. There is no getting away from that. Even though at the time, I would have argued, ironically, that black was white and that I was not a racist. That there was no way on God's green earth that I was racist. However, I've done a lot of work on myself, and I've educated myself, and I've listened to Janet's stories, and I've listened to other people's stories, and I have learnt that you can grow, and it is not hypocritical to change your mind and to understand things better. Please know that, people. So I ask you one thing tonight. Be free with your questions, be kind with your questions. But the number one thing is when Janet speaks, listen, take it in, and learn. Okay. Janet, we have already got questions.
Okay, that's
You'll be glad to know. You will be glad to know. So, brilliant. This is our first one. From the very lovely Rachel Bell. She says that she has been trying to educate herself more. How can she do that?
Hello, Rachel Bell. Again, indeed, the very lovely Rachel Bell, who has been a fabulous supporter. Thank you for all your lovely messages and words of encouragement. Lots of people have been asking me that question privately, especially about what can they do, what can they do to help. And there are so many things that you can do. There is a long list of things you can do. I wrote that long list of things that you can do today, pulling on all the different resources that I've thought about. You can do things as an individual and you can do things as a business. But one of probably the very first thing you need to do is accept that doing the things that you are going to do are not going to be comfortable. They're going to take you out of your comfort zone. I've been out of my comfort zone for 51 years. And the challenge in racism and accepting that some of your views may have some racist connotations is a really difficult thing. You have to dig really deep. No one wants to be branded as a racist. No one wants to be called out as a racist. No one wants to be told or accused of being a racist. You need to educate yourself. It's really important to educate yourself. I have a long list here of ways to become an ally, ways to be anti-racist. It is no longer enough anymore to be able to say, but I'm not racist, but carry on doing nothing. Doing nothing is part of the problem. It's about doing something. It's about taking some action. I'm not going to list them all, it's 2 pages long. You'll literally just be like, okay, we've got the idea, and we will send links out afterwards if people want them. Yeah. Like I say, number one is to commit to being uncomfortable. It is not going to be easy. One of the big things that white people need to do is to understand their privilege. I'm sure there's going to be a question on privilege. Privilege doesn't mean that you're rich. Doesn't mean that you've had an easy life. It doesn't mean that you've not had to struggle. It simply means that there are some things you will never have to think about just because of who you are and the colour of your skin. That's all privilege is. So you need to start to understand that privilege. When people say, well, you're quite privileged, Janet, you've got a law degree, you're educated, you live in a middle-class environment, your kids go to a nice school, it's a nice neighbourhood, you're privileged. There are some things that you will never be exposed to as a result of your white privilege. And that is really your privileges, and you've got to start taking that on board. You need to listen and do your homework. There is so much information out there right now, so much information. There's blogs, there's articles, people are tweeting, people are posting on social media. I'm posting on social media. There's podcasts, you can go to exhibitions. You need to do your homework and educate yourself. Go to museums that are for Black history. Catch up on all the issues. Do not just listen to the BBC. They don't know everything, and they also transmit from a very biased position. Speak up. Speak up. Don't talk over us, but speak up. Your voice is more powerful than mine. It's a very, very simple thing. If I'm sat in a room with Soph and another white person and they say something that is racist, if I respond, their response back in turn to me is very different than if Soph responds, because her voice has got more power. My voice gives the eye roll. Yes, I've been in the situation where I've seen the little exchange of looks, the oh God, here she goes again, the eye roll. I know you're not going to like this, Janet, but I'm going to say it. I don't like it and it's hurting me, but you're going to say it anyway. But if you call it out and say, hang on a minute, hang on, you've just said, Janet, you're not going to like this. What therefore gives you, makes you feel it's still okay to hurt her like that?
Yeah, I think actually, as well as being with you in those situations, I know, and I felt it, it can feel really awkward. calling out someone that has said something wrong. They may not have even meant it.
Yeah, of course.
They may not have even meant it. But, so calling someone out can feel really awkward, and you don't want to embarrass that person. You don't want to embarrass yourself. You don't want to... It's like, for God's sake, it can feel like the worst thing in the world. Guess what? It really isn't.
It really isn't.
And you will have to learn, as Janet said right at the beginning, you're going to have to learn to kind of become okay with the uncomfortableness sometimes. And there are some tips for you. Kindness is really obvious. You don't have to shout someone out and go, "Oi, you racist."
Yeah, please don't do that.
Don't do that, unless someone really is being. But use kindness, and sometimes, and this isn't to diminish the comments that are made, but humour can really help in those situations.
Absolutely. Something very simple like, are we back in the 50s, the 40s? No one uses that kind of language, mate. Come on.
Exactly.
Something as simple as that, just quell it. So speaking up is really important. Pledging to yourself that every time you hear or see racism, you will call it out. Whether it's your friends, your family, your workplace, wherever it is, do something about it. Accept that you're going to make mistakes. I have so many people saying to me, but when I do stuff, I get it wrong, and then everybody gets on and says, "White people, you get it wrong. You keep doing it wrong. You are going to make mistakes. We are all on this journey, learning what we need to do, and no one expects anyone to get it right all the time." Accept you've made a mistake. Recognise you've made a mistake. Apologise for that mistake, and keep on trying to get it right. That's really all we're asking of you. You can support campaigns, Rachel. I have a long list. I'm not going to go through it all. You can support campaigns. There are all kinds of things out there. There's a big petition to get Black history on the curriculum in schools. Sign those petitions. Find out what those petitions are. You can familiarise yourself with organisations that are fighting to end racism, and look at how you can donate to those organisations, how you can become involved with those organisations. There's Black Lives Matter, there's Show Racism the Red Card, there's the Stephen Lawrence Charitable Fund. That's just to name 3. There are loads out there. Find out about those organisations and see what you can do to help those movements. I'm going to stop on that.
That's great, because actually it sparked loads more conversation.
Fine, I'll stop. Sorry, I hope that's helped some, Rachel.
I think it would have helped a lot more people, I think, as well. Okay, so one of the things that has come up as a result of that is education of children. So there's 2 questions, I guess, is how can we educate our youngsters when we live in a predominantly white area? As a kid growing up, this is lovely Liz Duncan, she knew one black person, her kids are the same. And Sue Howarth is asking, where can I find resources to help teach her daughter?
Okay.
This is a great one, this is good.
I don't know if you can see this table, or behind me. That book there, I'm a Pretty Little Black Girl. That's my youngest daughter's favourite book. She's got loads of favourite books. She reads Shakespeare, children's versions, but she reads everything. She reads right across the board. There are so many resources out there, and I think Soph will put some of the resources in the link. These books are for children. There are toys, there are dolls, there are loads of brilliant black businesses and other businesses that where you can buy dolls that aren't a black Barbie. They are dolls that look like my girls. My girls have got all kinds of dolls, but they've got black dolls too. And again, one of Chris's favourite dolls is called Wilhelmina, and she's a little black ragdoll. There are some amazing books for children. My girls call these the Big Head books. They were bought for them by my sister. There's ones on all kinds of people. That's Barack Obama. Michelle's there, Nelson Mandela's there, Rosa Parks there, Martin Luther King's there. The list is endless. They do them for white people too. It's not just for famous black people. They do them for lots of people. And these are, who are these? The Who HQ do these books. They are brilliant. They're really simple. My eldest has read all of these, and my youngest is on Rosa Parks. There are links on YouTube for loads of really easy 12-minute snippet videos where people like Rosa Parks, not really Rosa Parks anymore, but an actress acted as Rosa Parks, tells you about her story, what she did. There's Harriet Tubman on there, there's Mary Seacole. The list is endless. You can find those resources all over the place. This week, the Junior this week, is a fantastic resource. Again, we'll get you the link for this week's edition. If you sign up, you get 6 months free. I'm not an advocate of this week. I'm not here to advertise.
No one's been paid. No one's been paid by this week.
Paid. But they are doing a fantastic article on the protests and how to talk to children about it. Newsround is a great place to just get some really, really basic information. I know loads of my friends will be saying, I've got this book and I've got that book and this is what's in my library. You can put all of those resources into your home, on your bookshelf. These are literally from my bookshelf. I haven't been out and bought them. This is what is in our house. My kids can go and pick these things up at any point, sit down and have a read themselves or have a read with me.
I think you bang on, Jane. I think we've been having so many conversations. I went home and I looked at my bookshelf and I read bucket loads. And I was like, wow, there's not many black voices in here, actually. And just to read them, and especially for young people, you're absolutely right, that's really important. One of the questions that's come through as well is how can we make multiculturalism relevant here? And let's face it, we live in a predominantly white area, and weirdly, just today I read a comment about Storrs Hall was built on the back of the slave trade, so maybe take your kids there. I believe there are still some shackles.
There's still some shackles. I don't know whether you can get down into the basement to see them, but there are still some shackles there. I couldn't when I went, and I don't know whether it's open. But there is a guy who works there who will tell you the whole story of the slave trade and Storrs Hall, and again, just give you some education about it. There's the rum story over in Whitehaven, the museum in Carlisle,
Tully House,
they often have some great exhibitions on. They promote loads and loads of black stories, black history. They have live characters, again, a bit like the videos that you see on YouTube, people will bring classrooms into them and they will sit and talk to these kids as though they're actually that character. So the resources are there, multiculturalism is there. You may have to dig a bit deeper to find it, but it is there. But also what's really important is to get black history as part of the curriculum in our schools, because people actually think that our history is about 3 things: the slave trade, civil rights movement in America, and Windrush, probably. Those 3 things. Our history is way more than that, and what we're not taught in schools and what is glossed over in the curriculum is that we have been here for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. We were here in the Tudor times. Thank you, Heather, for sending that book through to me. There's a book called The Black Tudors. Henry VIII, one of his trumpeters was a black man. We have done amazing things. My beautiful, fabulous sister Adette is doing is part of a massive campaign on Instagram, which is featuring lots and lots of famous black people that have been buried in history, who have done amazing, amazing things. The guy who made the light bulb was white. The guy who made the filament in the light bulb so that it would last and so that you could buy cheap light bulbs every day was black. We have done amazing things, and our kids don't know, and you guys don't know, and all you're taught is that we've descended from slaves. I did descend from slaves, absolutely true, but we bring more than that to the party, way more.
I think you're spot on, and there's loads of fantastic comments in complete agreement with you, Janet. And guys, just so you know, we will be sharing links to all of the things that we've been discussing tonight, as many as we possibly can. And a big part of this is Janet doesn't have all the answers. So it's great that we're able to talk and do this now, but it's not, you will have to educate yourselves as part of this. That's a really big important thing. We will share as much as we possibly can, and we want to be as helpful as we can.
Absolutely.
But take it upon yourself after tonight, and when the trend stops trending, to continue that education.
Absolutely. And if anybody wants to borrow any of my books, I have a lot of them. I have them in abundance. There's a whole pile of poems here, 50 unknown facts about the African, great speeches of the 20th century. I Have a Dream, everyone knows that one. A Portable Paradise is truly amazing. Thank you, Janet Plummer, for bringing this to my attention. The resources are actually endless. You have to dig around for them, and if you want to ask me for where you can find them, and if you want links from me, or I've heard this is good or that's not good, I've got a list of which we'll share with you, 20 books to read before I'm 50, all telling you about our history and the amazing things that we've done.
Yeah. And the more you learn, the more you read, just the wider your brain gets. That is true. And the more open-minded it is, it's brilliant.
Everyone should read Maya Angelou. Sorry, but everyone should read Maya Angelou. Everyone should read Maya Angelou. She should be part of the curriculum.
Do you know
everyone should read To Kill a Mockingbird, which is also on there.
We've got here, do you know what, there is so many comments.
Do you want to look at Insta as well?
I will, yes, I will look at Insta as well. Goodness me, sorry guys, it's going absolutely bananas. Here we are. So, how would you respond to a comment that the problem is more in the USA and that it's not so bad in the UK?
It's different in the USA. I'm not gonna deny that. There is racism in the USA and there is racism in the UK, and there are different aspects of racism in both countries. One of the most obvious aspects is that in the USA it's more overt, it's more open, it's more plain to see. And this is why we saw what we saw a couple of weeks ago with George. This is why we saw a couple of weeks ago what we saw with Chris, when the woman in the park said she was calling the police on him because he happened to be a black man who told her to put her dog on a lead in an area that said, keep your dog on a lead. So it's more open there, but in a way it's kind of even worse here.
It's so
hidden,
yeah.
It's so sinister. More black men here are 3 times more likely to be stopped and searched in the UK. Black only deaths are overrepresented in the number of deaths in police custody compared to the national demographic. So many black men have died in police custody. I beg your pardon. The knee choke restraint is not only doesn't only happen in America. Last year in 2017 in the UK, 3 years ago, black men died as a result of some form of knee choke or restraint. Edson da Costa, 25. There was a video of that. It was never made public. Rashan Charles, 19. Nino Cardasso, in his dying breaths, the police interpret those as a yawn. I don't know who is being restrained and starts yawning because they're bored or tired. Darren Cumberbatch, 32. The report showed evidence of racial disproportionality in police restraint. No individuals have ever been prosecuted for these deaths. This is right here in the UK. Yes, we're different from America. Yes, the racism is different in America. But it's more hidden and sinister here. We don't do it in public while people are watching us, and other policemen stand by with their hands in their pockets.
And I think one of the things that we've been discussing a lot is the terrible deaths are not just... They're the result of 1,000 other things. That doesn't just happen and then we respond to that. There's a reason that black people are more likely to have this happen to them, and that is racism. And really this has shone a light on the whole situation, and that is what Black Lives Matter is about.
Absolutely, yeah. This racism is systemic. You know, that gets bandied about a lot, but it's actually systemic or institutionalised. It's kind of interchangeable. But when you're... And the question that was asked about how do we get the resources, how do we get exposed to these sorts of things, shows that you're not exposed to those sort of things. You don't know those sorts of things. Your normal is not seeing those things. And so you've grown up never really knowing or understanding that those things are not normal. They're just kind of things that happen.
You're right. There's more questions on Facebook than Insta. I can understand it's probably a bit more awkward on there. Sorry, guys. Sorry, Insta. If you need to switch to Facebook, please do. We welcome you with open arms. Facebook, there is absolutely... The comments are just phenomenal. And there are people coming in from all over the place. It's brilliant to see people from all kinds of backgrounds are here as well, which is absolutely marvellous. So one other quick question, which I'll answer very quickly, is there's a question about how can we get Black History onto the curriculum. That we will put that in the links.
We will put that link in the links.
There is a petition for that.
There is a petition for that. There is an organisation for that. There is an organisation called The Black Curriculum. The lady who is the head of that organisation, name escaped me, there is a website. It tells you what you can do, how you can get involved, how we can get the black curriculum on the black history on the curriculum, and there is a massive petition at the moment for that to happen. So please sign it. Please, let's get that movement going. Please go to your school and call out your teachers when they have not. I've been to my girls' school and I've said, I'm not seeing enough black people on your curriculum. I need to see more. I've been to my school and I was told I was being ridiculous, not by the school, but by somebody else, because for years and years and years, I went to the school and watched the nativity of my 2 girls. Love it, brilliant. Always get a lump in my throat. I love the nativity. But each year, the black kids are never picked for Mary and Joseph. And each year my girls will come home, say, oh, we all got our parts for the nativity, Mum. And I was like, oh, what'd you get? They tell me that they've got Christ King, a narrator, whatever it happens to be. And I like every other parent in the country, tell me that this is not true.
It's true. I already know what you're going to say. I mean, it's true.
It's true. Who got Mary and Joseph?
Well, I don't know why we care so much, but we really do. You're right.
We really do. And Mary and Joseph, they haven't got the biggest roles. They haven't got the funniest roles. They don't get the best lines. Let's face it, they walk around pretending they're on a donkey with a doll in the hand. Not that much fun. But it's the first question I asked, who got Mary and Joseph? And I said, the second to last year, the penultimate year that they were going to be in infant school, I went to the school and said, there's about 6 or 7 black kids in the year. I've not seen, in the whole time they've been coming, I've not seen one of them be Mary or Joseph. When was the last time you had black Mary or Joseph? They think they had one about 20 years ago. It never occurred to them. They gave me a lot of reasons, some of which may have been reasons, but actually, let my kid see themselves reflected in the role that everybody asks about. Don't let my kid be in the background role all the time. And when I say my kid, I mean the black kids. I did not mind that it was my children.
Well, you did. I mean, I would have. But I know what you mean.
But you know what I mean?
It's about visibility, isn't it?
It's about visibility, and they need to see themselves reflected so that they can feel good about themselves. When they open books and the only thing they see in those books are white faces with blonde hair and blue eyes, and they're not in there, they can't see themselves anywhere, they can't hear their kind of names anywhere. I'm going to tell you something, I know I'm digressing. When they were tiny, I've told you this story before, when they were tiny I used to walk through Windermere with them and people used to go, what beautiful children, aren't they gorgeous, aren't they, oh my gosh, look at them. And then they'd say, what are the names? And I'd go, Ian K and Clarissa. Sorry? Ian K and Clarissa? What? And in the end I just got to the stage where, as God is my witness, I started calling them Jennifer and Susan. That's my mother-in-law's names. I just said they're Jennifer and Susan because it was easier. I mean, I'm laughing, but actually it was a really serious issue. And it's about kids understanding that other kids have names that might not be familiar to them. Not everybody's called, I'm not going to give a name because I don't want to upset anybody, but not everybody's called not a normal name. Not everybody is called
Jane. Sorry, Jane.
Sorry, Jane.
Not everyone's called Jane.
Not everyone's called Jane.
Do you know what? Representation is something that you've hit on massively there. And business people in the room, do us a favour, check your advertising. Check the leaflets and the pictures on your website. Just look.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you're...
Check your images on social media.
Check your images on social... It doesn't matter if you're in Cumbria. It doesn't matter if you're in Cambodia. Just have a little look and see if you are doing your best to represent a wider range of people. Yeah. We had a leaflet made once, and I'm looking at it right now, and it came back, and it was a family thing, and all the families were white, and we just went back. No biggie. Guess what, guys? It's really not a big deal. We just went back to the designer and said, "Oh, could you please make sure that there's some more diversity represented in the pictures?" And they're like, "Oh yeah." And so a lot of it, he's not consciously thinking. We see what we're used to. We reproduce what we're used to. So businesses do that.
And that's one for you, Rachel, as well. You were asking what you can do as a business as well as an individual. That's really important. It is simply not enough, as we have seen with the backlash over the last few days, to have an equal opportunities policy that says, everybody in this workplace will be treated fairly. It is not enough. People want to see action, and people are calling it out. And you should call it out. You should call it out. Question what you're doing and what you have got in place and how you can do better.
There's some great, there's a lot of just comments, which if it's okay, Joe, I'm going to go through a couple of these. Peter Cogley, I've been reading all kinds of comments and jokes that trivialise the issue. I know that they're wrong and I do comment to put them right, but the response is always that it's just a joke. It makes me so angry and I'm accused of being over the top, but I won't stop. Good on you. I would also say sometimes, do choose your battles, I guess.
Choose your battles.
Call it out, but choose your battles.
Choose
there
your
are some
battles.
people, you're an extremist, far right. That's never, save your breaths.
Yeah, you're not.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Well, they wouldn't listen to me anyway, and they wouldn't want to talk to me, and no doubt I wouldn't want to talk to them anyway. So save your breath on some battles, absolutely. But just going back to that joke point, when someone has been making that joke for 400 years, it's not a joke to us. People talk about 1,000 paper cuts. Try. I can't think of the number, but when you look at those paper cuts and how many times they've been cut into you, sometimes on a daily basis, there's nothing funny about it.
Somewhat, you're right. You're right. It's not funny, and enough is enough. When we look back at the stuff in the 70s, we cringe.
Yeah, of course
we cringe. There was a comment about it in there, and it's really easy to say, well, at the time things were different. We don't have to be like that now, do we?
No.
We don't. That's a choice that we are all making.
Yeah.
And we can make that as an individual. And sometimes calling out your mates is some of the most powerful things that you can do.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Absolutely.
God, there is honestly, Jay. The comments are just going bananas, and it's brilliant.
Now that I've settled down, I'm kind of missing it. I'm like, I want to see what's going on.
What's going on? What is going on? Oh my life! People are adding in resources. There's been a few examples of racism that people have experienced themselves. So thank you very much for having the bravery to talk about that.
This has
really
been a
appreciate
really. I don't know what it is about. Well, I probably do know what it is a bit about COVID, but the whole experience of being locked down, everything's magnified, isn't it? Everything's so much bigger. We've really had to deal with a lot of issues that we don't really deal with anymore. You know, I was talking to Sarah, as I said last night, and he was sort of saying, she gave me a really horrible example. I don't know whether she wants to share it. I won't share it without her permission, of what had happened to her when she was young, black person growing up in Kendal, just her and her sister. And we close down. We start protecting ourselves. We put up a big defence around, a big wall to protect ourselves from all those little cuts, and to be able to just be able to get through life and cope. And we've had to revisit all those feelings these last couple of weeks, and it's been tough, And when we've seen some of those comments, have we got an All Lives Matter question yet? It's probably
ish.
Sorry, go on.
It's fine. No, this isn't an all Lives Matter one. This is how do you and your family deal with the social media when it constantly shows the organised minority who have caused disruption at the peaceful protests? So, protests we all know that protests lead to change. They are important. I pulled out a couple of protests that have led to change. Everyone knows about the civil rights movements. Less people probably know about the Bristol bus boycott. We all know about the suffragettes. So I've pulled out a couple of ones over the years. Yeah, the Peasants' Revolt in the 1300s, the Chartist movement in the 1800s, obviously the suffragettes in the early 20th century. Yeah. Let's not forget the French Revolution. Let's not forget the Russian Revolution. I think, do you know what? Looting and rioting, it makes people feel uncomfortable, but that's kind of the point. If you have been an oppressed group for so long, and you've lived that life, you've been treated differently. Lots of you would have heard of the systemic racism, the institutional racism, the fact that you know that you're less likely to get a job because your name sounds old. The fact that when you get to that interview and they realise that Janet Walker was such a thing, that English sounded like, oh my God, she's a black woman, what do we do now, crikey, panic. We know that those things happen to us all the time.
And so when you're in that situation all the time, you live in a boiling pot. You live in a pot that is pressured. And sometimes when you bring all of those people together in that pressurised environment, the lid blows off.
Yeah.
And protest gets angry, it gets frustrated. And when you do not hear me, when you do not hear us, where else can we turn? I am not saying looting is right, but equally I'm not saying protests that are no longer peaceful are wrong. I'm not condoning people going round hurting other people, but walk in our shoes and understand why. What I get all the time is, oh well, they're all looting, they're all causing problems. How did it get to that stage
I think
where
that's
they got so bad that that's all they could do?
Janet, there have been years of peaceful protests as well.
Yes,
years and years of...
And even just in recent weeks, most of the protests have been
Exactly.
peaceful. The media will show us what they want us to see. They will show us the statue being uprooted in Bristol and thrown into
I
harbour.
cheered, and I'm not afraid to say it, I cheered and cheered and
And
cheered.
I felt no sense of loss. So, and I did cheer too. So, yes, people have done some acts of vandalism. But when Boris says to us, Boris, who does not have any black people in his cabinet, and I'm talking about black people as in African Caribbean black people, not Asian people, because we do experience different forms of racism. But when Boris says it was an unlawful criminal act, and actually there are avenues to go down in order to, if you wanted that monument removed. The Bristolians have been going down that avenue for years and years and years. They've been petitioning for years. Get this man out of the ground. And the government have been saying no to them for years and years and years. So sometimes you take it into your own hands.
And it has actually, I mean, okay, sometimes it is unsavoury, that protests and that bring associated violence, but that is sometimes the only language available. It really is, because people are not listening. And actually it's a natural part of the process of change, and that's been proved by all of the things that we've just said. But it has already led to a big discussion, a big discussion that is happening now about other statues of frankly inappropriate, outdated, ridiculous things. They should be part of the curriculum. They should not be lauded. And so that has already sparked a conversation. So whilst it's unsavoury...
The Mayor of London has set up another commission. I know we have a lot of commissions on a lot of things, but their job is to work out what statues, what street names should be re-looked at and rethought in this groundswell for change.
Goodness me. Okay, this is a really, really interesting question. I'm going to give you the full backstory. Okay, my question is, my children are 5 and 3, and as children, naturally, they question everything. Last week we saw a woman in a wheelchair, and my 3-year-old asked loud enough for the whole world to hear, why was she in a pram? We talked it over openly, and people are often happy that we go over and make polite conversation and ask questions rather than a whispered response and dragging said child away. As you say, we don't live in a culturally diverse area as such, and one day the question of skin colour will probably arise in public, even though this is something that we talk about at home. Have books at home and have that visual, I think, is the first thing to do. So it's less of an issue if you see a black person in real life. But would it be appropriate, and this is something I know that you and I have discussed a few times, would it be appropriate for my children to come over and ask their questions directly to a black person, or is that ignorance on my part? Is it unconsciously racist and a sign that I'm not doing enough at home? Oh, wow. Oh, I know. It's a good one. And a really honest one. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is what this is about, and challenging. It's brilliant.
So I can only speak for me. I can speak for me in situations where that's happened. I remember being on a bus once, I think it was in Belgium, and I was just talking to whoever I was on holiday with. It was our Yvette, my sister, and a couple of other people, and I literally jumped out of my skin because a kid literally just put their hand down my face and just went like that, and I said, whoa, what's going on? And his mother went, I am so sorry, I've just been restraining him and I've taken my hand off him for a minute. He was convinced it was paint. I am horrified and mortified. And I just went, would you like to touch me properly? My skin is exactly the same as yours. It's just darker. And he sat next to me and he touched my skin and he was satisfied. And he was like, so why is your skin darker than mine then? Why is my skin not that colour? And he asked me several questions and then he skipped back off to his mother, who was just like, oh, thank you. And I was like, it is fine. That's me. I can't speak for everybody else. What I don't want is people who come up to me and go, I've just got to touch your hair. Don't just come up to me and touch my hair. If you ask my consent, I'm probably going to say no, actually, because why do you want to touch my hair? But don't just think that you can do that. As a child, absolutely. Children are innocent, and yes, they do see colour. Everybody who says that they don't are not functioning properly. It's just, colour is there. This colour blindness is not something that I have any truck with. It's just not true. It's impossible not to see colour. Kids see it. But yes, get some education in your home. Get some books around. Get some visuals around. Think about the things that they're watching on TV. Think about the things that they're watching on YouTube and Netflix. There is a lot more representation coming in, more and more and more. But then when they see somebody, it won't be such a shock the first time. But if they still come over and ask me, what the heck, that's actually okay. I'd rather that they know and understood and that they got a really good response and felt positive about that experience.
Brilliant. Thank you. Janet, thank you. Someone here, and I think this is something that is, here we go, this is essentially the All Lives Matter point. What worries me is how defensive people have become about racism, either denying that there's an issue or providing reasons as to why they are not racist. Agree with so many, sorry, someone's just come in and it's made me lose it. Oh, lovely, Jane Scott, I will find it again. I'm so sorry, Janet. It was great and it's pinged. Oh, hey, I will be there in a moment.
Gosh, there's a lot.
Janet, honestly, we are going to have some wine after this because there is just so many incredible conversations happening. Do you know what? I cannot find it. Jane Scott, I'm so sorry. It was
Put it in again, Jane.
Put it in again and I will come back to it. I guess essentially is that question of I am not a racist. It's not enough. People are very, very quick to wash their hands of the Black Lives Matter campaign and racism in generally, like say, denying that there's a problem and saying I'm not a racist. What is the difference between I'm not a racist and anti-racist? I'm asking that as a summary of that, but I will, if it's more clearly asked, I'll come back to it.
I am not a racist is essentially part of the problem. I was going to say I'm sorry, but actually I'm not sorry. I'm calling that out. Like I say, sometimes it's going to get uncomfortable. It's a very easy thing to say and then to pat yourself on the back and go, and that is therefore that. I've satisfied that particular issue. Mm-hmm. I'm not a racist. But actually, if you're not doing anything to affect racist views and impact change, then you may as well be a racist. Mm-hmm. Because you're in the same position. And when you say I'm not a racist, what you do is you just dismiss the issue. And what we find as black people so often is that people dismiss and deflect. They turn it away. They say I'm not a racist. You know, I would never do that. But equally, you would never call somebody out. People will hear racist language and they'll go on and say, God, you never guess what so-and-so said. I was so embarrassed. But they've done nothing about it. But because they're not a racist, that's all right. That's not answering the All Lives Matter versus the Black Lives Matter. I'm sorry, but that whole thing about not being a racist is no longer enough. At one stage, if someone said to me I'm not a racist, I'd think, oh, great, that's brilliant. But now, actually, it's just a thing to say, and it makes you feel better.
Brilliant, thank you, Janet. I swear to God, it is just going absolutely bananas. Someone here, I am so concerned about getting someone with a non-normal name wrong that I daren't say it. I will ask you how you say your name if I don't know, but I'm so concerned about upsetting or offending someone that I sometimes don't just use I just end up not using their name. Not proud of this, but what do you suggest? And this is even making me uncomfortable asking.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you for asking. It's great that it's making you uncomfortable. These matters bum clenching, you're literally clenching your butt cheeks.
That's a huge part of the process, isn't it? Is going, I don't really...
That's that question. It's so awkward. Names. Well, I told you that, but actually, just call everybody know names that are easy. Jennifer and Susan, just go with that. But some names are really, really difficult to pronounce. I struggle sometimes pronouncing people's names. We all do. Some names are difficult to pronounce. But I think I would rather have my child's name pronounced correctly, having asked me 1,000 times, and again I can only speak for me, than having it pronounced incorrectly for the rest of her life. It got to the stage where at one stage I just said to someone, she has told you, I don't know how many times, this is how you pronounce her name. Listen.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it sounds really obvious. I think sometimes when we ask someone's name, I mean, I'm guilty as anyone, and I'm like, Jay, it's like it's in and it's out, especially if we're used to hearing names that we're used to hearing. If someone says Steve, you're like, it's Steve. If someone says Bob, you're like, that's Bob. But if someone says Inke, really, you should just be pausing before we ask, and that goes for anyone's name, really, doesn't it? But pause and really listen.
Yeah.
Because so often we're not actually listening.
Absolutely,
in the first
we're
place.
not actually listening. And one of the techniques that I use is to break it down into syllables, like you would with any word that you're struggling with. So Ayinke is 3 syllables, and I will break it down. And again, not every black person is comfortable with this, so please don't take this as read. But I will break her name down for people and say it's 3 syllables, Ayinke. And if you write it down, sometimes I write it down in a way that it's pronounced in my head, not Ayinke's name, because I know how to say that one, but somebody else's, I'll write it down in a way that's pronounced in my head so that I can get it into my head, even though it might be spelled differently to the way it looks. So there are techniques that you can use to try and help with names. But please don't ever feel uncomfortable about getting somebody's name wrong. That is okay, you know. If you went to, I'm trying to think of a country. Give me a country that, you know, it would be really hard to pronounce somebody's name. Potentially.
Oh my God.
I don't know.
France.
Let's go with France. So don't overthink it, I think is the thing. Don't overthink it.
Do you think then, as well, I guess a big part of this is sometimes ask. You'd like to say, swallow the uncomfortable, and whether it's about a name or whatever it is, ask the question.
And sometimes some people might say, I've told you my name, I don't know why you're having a problem with it. And in a way, that's kind of a mistake. You've asked them and you thought, oh, I'm really sorry, I did not mean to offend. I will try again. And some people will be like me, who will just say, oh, okay, it's like this. But have a go.
This is, I swear, there's so many bits. Zoe Arnold was in China, thanks. Where was I? Brilliant. Ireland. Yeah, thank you. Japan, Korea. Cheers, guys. So
we get the best
so glad you've got our back. Thank you so much. Okay, goodness me. More effort should be put into learning about how not to be an anti-racist rather than convincing people that they are non-racist. I think that's... And do you find that people come to you to confirm that they're not racist?
Yeah.
And do you... This is kind of in here as tokenism. There are some people who feel that having a black friend instantly means that they can therefore not be racist.
Yeah.
And actually this is something that someone's popped in here.
Absolutely.
Asian friend, Naz is saying, she said, well, I've got Asian friends and I've got black friends, and therefore people have used that as an excuse to then basically go on and be racist. What's your advice there? Advice. Sort it all out, Jay. Sort it all out.
Yes, people come to me, even in these last couple of weeks, some of the messages that I feel I have received have been about people wanting to have atonement. I'm not a priest. You know, I cannot forgive you for having sinned. It's not for me. It's for you to internalise that and deal with that, and don't come to me to look for forgiveness, because I can't make it all right for you. And even if I do make it all right for you, I don't speak for every single black person in the world. Is my hair floppy? Is my thing floppy down? I don't speak for every black person in the world, and so I can't make it all right for you by being your black friend who you can go to and go, you know I'm not racist, don't you? You know that, don't you? I can say, yes, I know that, but it doesn't absolve you of actually doing something about it.
Yeah.
It just makes you feel a little bit better that Janet thinks that I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm not enough.
You're absolutely spot on. Zainab, hi Zainab. In response to the names, I get this all the time. People find my name difficult to pronounce. I would prefer it if someone asked, wrote it down and tried, and not actually, and this I guess is one of the key points, is not turn around and say, you've got a difficult name. It's not a Western name, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's absolutely cracking advice being shared there. Isn't it strange that people who've disapproved of pulling down a statue of a racist in Bristol cheered the pulling down of a statue of Saddam Hussein in Iraq?
And Lenin.
Absolutely.
And various other
Yeah.
things that were an affront to them, which it was an atrocity, and it was an affront, and people were disgusted and wanted it gone.
Someone it's even changed their view on the statue, so that's amazing.
Brilliant.
Sorry, I'm looking for questions. There's so many brilliant comments. Here we are. I always ask how to pronounce the name. Absolutely brilliant. Sharing of great resources. Oh my life. I'm so sorry. We've got lots of Janet. Thank you for doing this. Great to have this opportunity to keep these conversations going. Hopefully we can continue this, and I think that's part of it. And enjoy our glass of wine later. Don't worry, we will. Can we have a little bit of a discussion, Jay, about the All Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter? What is the difference? I'm pretty sure actually that the people who are watching are switched on to the difference between the two, and there's been some sharing of resource in there. But for the people at the back who might not, I think it would be really helpful.
Or the people you can pass this story
Absolutely.
on to, who probably still wouldn't feel comfortable in this forum, whatever we provided. So, yes, I think the very first post what I talked about at the beginning, and when I posted it, I said, and please don't tell me all lives matter, because I am well aware of that fact, because quite often when you post the Black Lives Matter hashtag, people come back to you and go, all lives matter. And I think I had it twice in the last week. And both times I responded with this, and it's because it's one of the best things I've seen. I don't know if Lisa Shepherd is in one of the rooms, but her stepdaughter posted this in response to Lisa's post saying Black Lives Matter, and someone had said all lives matter, and her stepdaughter had come in and put this forward. So I'm just going to try and read it and give you an idea of what I'm thinking. Imagine that you're sitting down to dinner with your family, and while everyone else gets a serving of the meal, you don't get any. So you say, I should get my fair share. And as a direct response to this, your dad says, everyone should get their fair share. Now that's a wonderful sentiment. Indeed, everyone should. And that was kind of your point in the first place, that you should be part of everyone, and you should get your fair share also. However, Dad's smart-ass comment just dismissed you and didn't solve the problem that you still haven't gotten any. The problem is that the statement, I should get my fair share, had an implicit to at the end of it. I should get my fair share too, just like everyone else. But your dad's response treated your statement as though you meant only I should get my fair share, which is clearly not what you were trying to say. As a result, his statement that everyone should get their fair share is true, but it only served to ignore the problem you were trying to point out. And that's the situation of Black Lives Matter. We know throughout our cultures, our laws, arts, religion, everything else suggests that all life should matter. Clearly, that message is already out there. It's bandied about in society. Mm-hmm. But the problem is in practice that the world doesn't work that way. And what we're trying to say is that if you keep coming back to us saying all lives matter, all you do is go back to dismissal and deflection. It's like saying, I'm not racist, but you're doing nothing about the actual problem itself. There's way more in there about that, but that gives you where we're coming from. And there are loads of other analogies. Again, you can, if you just Google all lives matter versus Black Lives Matter, you'll get hit from all sides. But there is a lot of information out there, but that's what it's about. You are just deflecting the problem and just pretending that there isn't one. And actually there is.
Really interesting question, and one for the white folk. Do you have any thoughts on being an ally versus being a white saviour? How can we help in the right and most respectful way and use our white privilege in the best way? This particular person has been educating themselves, signing petitions, looking at and confronting your own behaviour and actions, but when it comes to speaking out, I'm afraid that I get it wrong. Even writing this question, I feel, is disrespectful, and I know they feel that they could be doing more. But I don't want the fear of saying the wrong thing to stop me from saying anything at all, as this discomfort is nothing compared to the racism and prejudice experienced by so many. Does this even make any sense?
Yes.
Yes, it does. The white saviour versus ally, that's a biggie.
It's a massive issue. One of the big problems that we face as black people is we want you to... I'm going to speak to Insta now because I think it was an Insta question.
It was an Insta question, but they're now watching on Facebook.
Oh, okay. One of the biggest problems that we have is that we need white people as allies. We are not going to lie. We need your help to rid us of this racism. But what sometimes happens, because people forget to listen and hear, is that they start to take over and they start to become a white saviour. And also what's happened in the past is that they have seen those white saviours in certain places in the world, like Africa, where people have gone in and said, you know, I can help. And there is that power struggle. But what we really need you to do is not speak over us or take credit for what we are doing. What we need you to do is be our supporter. I think I saw a really good analogy on Instagram a couple of days ago where it was a black woman sort of saying how you could help and not fall into that white saviour role. she was quite funny, and remember Beyonce and the other two, what were they called?
Kelly.
Yeah, and Michelle.
Michelle.
And they were saying your role is the support. You are not Beyonce. You are not even Kelly.
That's great.
You're Michelle.
Oh, Michelle.
Get to the back of the queue and stand up and be the support. Don't be the main person. That's really, really important. Whoever that person was, it was a fantastic question. Please don't feel uncomfortable. You are going to make mistakes. You are going to get it wrong. We are going to get angry with you. People are going to shout you down. Your butts are going to clench. You are going to sweat. You're not going to be able to look people in the eye. You're going to hate the silence in the room when everyone goes, oh God, here he or she goes again. Keep going with it. Keep at it. Keep calling it out. If we all keep doing it, those people who think it's all right just to say that, because I know you won't mind, or you're being ridiculous or oversensitive, they will stop doing that because they will see that you, as the white voices, also saying that is not good enough. It is not acceptable.
Brilliant. Thank you, Janet. That is bang on.
Be Michelle.
Be Michelle. This is from Naz.
Hi, Naz.
Lovely, Naz. Have you got some tips for... This is a biggie, because you, and I've been in the room when this has happened, when as a person of colour you get, pulled out for pulling the race card, but actually what's happening is really racist. So how do you deal with that situation? It's really freaking impossible.
It's an impossible situation. I have been accused so many times of pulling the race card. I actually don't pull the race card. I don't pull the race card, but I do call you out on racist comments. Yeah. And people, it's about dismissal and deflection. I will always go back to that double D. Rather than accepting that you have said or done something racist, you turn it back on me and say, I've pulled the race card so that you can dismiss and not deal with the problem. Rather than going away and sitting down and going, do you know what I said? Probably was maybe a bit inappropriate, maybe not the right thing to do, maybe I can understand where she's coming from, maybe when I look back at all those years of what that person has had to put up with, maybe I got it wrong, but what people do is put the problem back on us and say, you're pulling the race card. And it's really hard now. We can't win all the battles, and there are some battles that is not worth fighting, we are probably always going to be accused of pulling the race card. All you know is that you're a genuine person and that you don't pull the race card, and the problem is theirs, not yours. And if you are calling out racism and somebody is going, oh, here you go with your race card, you have to leave that person be. There's not that. I don't know the answer to that. If anybody in the comments can help with the answer to that, I will gladly hear it. But I have struggled as much as you with the race card, and it's one of the things I was talking about to Sarah last night. What it often makes you do is rather than be accused of pulling the race card, being accused of pulling the race card is as uncomfortable as white people being called a racist. They are of equal insult. And it's very easy to say to us, oh, you're pulling the race card. But we've got to keep pulling the card of calling you out. And we've got to make people see that this is not about a race card. This is about an actual thing that is going on and happening to us all the time.
I know we've got a lot of business people here as well, and some of the conversation that's been going on is about having a more balanced workplace. So, let me find it now. So, is positive discrimination still discrimination?
Oh, I love it.
Janet was an employment lawyer for
it.
years, so I'm like, yes, she knows the answers.
The positive discrimination, do you know what? When people talk to me about positive discrimination, I always think about H&M a couple of years ago with the little black boy, and it was a model, and they put him in the jumper that said, Monkey in the Jungle, or something along those lines. And that range came out, and there was outrage. Everybody was just like, why you put the black kid in the Monkey in the Jungle top? And the answer was, they didn't have anybody around the table who could, when they were making all those decisions as to who would wear what and who would be, what wardrobe would do with this person and that person, there was nobody around the table who could go, ooh, hang on. I'm not sure we should put that kid in that top. And that, to me, it's not about how many qualifications I've got. I have a first-class law degree, and I have another good degree as well, but it doesn't actually really matter if I'm not necessarily the best qualified candidate for that job in terms of my academic prowess. If I can bring something else to your table, Boris Johnson, Matt Hancock, your cabinet, if I can bring a different perspective to your table because of my background and because of my culture, you need me in the room, because I'm the one who can put my hand up and go, ooh,
yeah,
hang on a minute.
And that, I think that kind of answers it. I think sometimes people worry, someone will get the job just because they're black.
Sometimes discrimination does.
And sometimes that actually should be the case, because, like you said, the voices around the table should be from all different walks of life, and that's not just referring to race. That's absolutely everything.
Yeah.
The more people that are contributing to a conversation, the more rounded the conversation, the more rounded the results.
If you have anybody around the table who is just like you, and you have nobody who challenges you or questions you, then you're never going to be able to develop and grow, because everyone agrees with your position. So you have to have different people in there. And actually, positive discrimination, putting the ex-legal hat on, positive discrimination isn't about, give the black person the job because we should give more black people jobs. What it's saying is, when you've got two candidates who have actually matched perfectly, and you cannot decide between them, and you do not have as much representation of a certain group of people in your organisation, then that's when you would use the positive discrimination. It's been completely misinterpreted as to what it is. Right. But diversity is key. Having different people around the table will make you richer.
Yes, it will. And it will also help make people from other groups richer as well. And that's a good thing all round, isn't it?
And not just round that table,
round
that top table.
Yes, that is so important. That is so important.
We need to be directors and CEOs and people, top-level management.
How many are there, Janet? Not many?
Don't know how many they are, but I was reading an article in the Times yesterday. I don't know in the Times, but I'm trying to do exactly that, put more people around my table. And in the article, it was a black guy who was a recruitment agency, and he was saying that there are so many recruitment agencies out there who talk about this, but there are so few people who are black, who are in the top big businesses, big organisations in our country who are in those top positions. There's so few. Whether the organisation is charity, whether it's corporate, whether it's public sector, so few of them are black. Needs to change.
A really good question, actually. Do you think, from Liz Duncan, do you think companies sometimes tick the race box with their advertising? And yes, and I think,
yes,
as much as I said before, please make sure that you've got representation, it's also about exactly what you're saying. There's more voices everywhere.
More voices everywhere.
Mm.
Yeah, it's so easy. Ticking the box is like saying I'm not a racist. It's so easy to tick the box. It's also very easy in Cumbria to say, well, there's not very many black people around, so that's why I've got no black people in our organisation. But some of these bigger businesses are actually constantly, their recruitment agencies are in Manchester and Birmingham and London, and that's where they're recruiting from. And why aren't you saying to your recruitment agencies, all you want to send me are these very similar people. I want to make my organisation richer and more diverse. Can you send me some CVs of other people? Have you not got any? Why haven't you got any? Where are they? How do I find them?
Just this, Janet Plummer's just made me absolutely happy. There is no race card, it is a freaking race encyclopedia.
And that's why I love her.
Yes, oh, I know, what absolute.
And she has a great book, which, look, Janet, look what I've still got.
Here we go.
All these years, I've still got it. Janet Plummer on the back.
It's been talking about gaslighting. Someone here is originally from South Africa, and they hear, I guess this is similar to the reverse, to the positive discrimination. They often hear the term reverse racism in relation to white people who are feeling marginalised by a black government. What are your thoughts on that term, reverse racism? Oh my God, what are your thoughts? I can tell. Do you know what? I can tell by looking.
What's the question?
The question is, what are your thoughts on that term? This lady's originally from South Africa and often hears the term reverse racism in relation to white people who are feeling marginalised by a black government. That's specifically in South Africa. I guess, yeah, we don't know, do we? I guess. But what are your thoughts on that term? Yeah.
Can anybody see him?
They might not. It's Nelson Mandela.
It's Nelson Mandela.
Yeah.
And the apartheid regime. Sorry, I want to answer that question. I don't want to be flippant. You're asking me about reverse racism and white people feeling marginalised. Is that what I'm being asked?
What do you think about the term? I get was the question.
What I think about the term, I don't know what I think about the term. What I think about the idea, the idea and the concept of it is probably first and foremost, welcome to my world. Walk in my shoes for a day, and then talk to me about reverse racism. Cool. That's probably what I think.
There's another lady here who's from South Africa, and that term makes her cross. It's fascinating. Here we are. We've got here Fraser Hannah's adding companies who want to sell their stuff surely to as many people as possible. In not embracing diversity, they're limiting their potential customers. Yeah, that's true.
Absolutely. We are a big resource.
This is another cracking one. Home working, which, let's face it, is on the up and up now, isn't it? Not just I think it will remain on the other side. Now means that organisations in Cumbria can't keep saying that we don't employ black people because there's very few in this area. Now they can employ people who are based anywhere.
Absolutely.
I actually think we're going to attract, and if we do a good job with that, we could attract more and more cultural diversity here, which would be great.
Absolutely, which would be absolutely. We have so much to bring. There are so many black. We are so talented as a group of people. You know, I'm not talking about me, I'm just talking about all the wonderful people I know. I know I've mentioned Janet Plummer, but so many, my oceans of friends are the most talented group of people you are ever likely to come across. We have so much to offer, we are so creative, we embrace life, we have so much joy and love and laughter to give. I'm an asset to your business, not a burden. Or a worry to think that, oh gosh, I've taken a black person on, I'm going to get a race discrimination claim. Because that happens a lot as well.
brilliant question, one we were discussing earlier as well. Heck ladies, this is excellent. I know you're swamped with questions and she posted this earlier and would welcome advice. Sorry if it's already been covered. It hasn't. I saw the story read Gone with the Wind being removed by broadcasters. I've said forever it's my favourite film. Strong women, a fascinating tale, beautiful cinematography. Yet I've also understood the tough slavery storyline, historic inaccuracies and the massive issues that it throws up. I'm so torn as to whether this film and other TV shows, books and films should now be removed. And I hope this is a safe space to discuss. It absolutely is.
It is. I'm going to let Soph answer most of it because she was the one who brought it to my attention. My response to her was that I can't watch Gone with the Wind because I find it really, really difficult viewing, and I've never got more than probably the first 20 minutes in, and I've given up in disgust. I think we said earlier on, I'm going to let Soph answer this.
Go.
But I think we said earlier on that the media have a really biased way of reporting and putting a slant on things that often make black people look bad or make white people think badly of black people because of the way they have portrayed a thing. And I'm going to hand over to Soph because I think that's exactly what they did in this situation, and they allowed us to be the victims of their flipping headline.
Yeah, it was a pot-stirring headline. So I think the headline read something like Gone with the Wind removed by HBO. But the actual truth of the matter is that Gone with the Wind had been taken down temporarily in order for them to add some information at the beginning and the end to explain some more of the social and historical context. Now that isn't a very jazzy headline, is it? But
it's also very long.
It's very long, so it's pithier. But that really is that's a good thing, isn't it? And I do get, I understand the kind of the broader question about should TVs and film, but that's a really good example of something that you can do. If there's something that is, when no one's saying burn the books, but let's put them in context. Let's make sure the films and things like that, let's make sure that we understand what's going on with them.
So that when our young people or our older people or anybody then watches that movie, they understand the context of when that movie was made and what was happening at the time, and they've educated the person who is about to be their viewer.
Did Hattie, she didn't win an Oscar, she was up for one but wasn't allowed to attend the ceremony, I think, for that film as well.
Ask that in comments, I don't know that
yeah,
for fact.
I'm not sure for fact, but there was discrimination even within the discrimination of the film as well, so I'm hoping that when HBO re-release that, which I believe is the plan, that all of that is put in there as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Guys, I'm trying desperately to keep up with everything. The comments and the love and support is absolutely amazing. Janet, there is no angry faces. We're currently live to 118 people, by the way,
cool.
Just so you know.
Excellent, that's great.
Okay, we've got Kill a Mockingbird. Someone's been here we are, Joyce. Going to ask again about To Kill a Mockingbird. It's a conversation I had earlier. Was told that I didn't understand as a white one, and they're trying to get it banned from school.
Well, that's actually a really good question because To Kill a Mockingbird has been on. That's how I first read To Kill a Mockingbird. I probably read it until children, probably much every year of my life, because the nuances in it are really subtle, and it's really deep rooted and quite clever about what racism is all about, really. And so that's why they put it on the curriculum, because it allowed us to, if you're studying literature, it allows you to deal with all those things that you need to deal with when you're studying literature. So it was fascinating for someone like me. But we have so many amazing authors now. I would tell anybody to read To Kill a Mockingbird. But I would also tell anybody to read Maya Angelou and Alice Walker and Toni Morrison. And I'm looking at all these wonderful authors that I've got here who all have amazing stories to tell, and they should be on the literature curriculum. And so it's important that we widen what the curriculum now offers. When I was at school, I had Henry Fielding, Shakespeare, and To Kill a Mockingbird. You can guess which one caught my attention. I actually did read all those other books as well and have them on my bookshelf. But there are such a wide range of books now that we can share with our young people that it's time for a change. Don't not read it, but it doesn't have to be the one that's on the school curriculum. I have a little token one.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. People are just adding in all of the facts that I got horribly wrong about Hattie. They're like, she did win, but she was left at the back of the room. Right, so thank you.
I knew there was a story, but I couldn't recall what it was.
Thank you so much for helping me out there. So there was a question that I just saw here. So tourism in this area and the black community. There's no question. Just talk about it. It says.
Oh, okay.
Talk about it, Janet. Let's. Do you know what I think? I'm going to say.
Go on, you say something.
I've been in the room many a time when Janet has had the phone call. She knows the phone call. I do get the phone call. You get the phone call all the time, and it's better that this is happening. But it is kind of I don't know. Here we go. This is what we can chat about. From local organisations saying, we wondered if you wanted to come down and be in a photo shoot. And I'm like, what, me? And they're like, no, not you. And I mean, fair enough, right? That could be based about nothing. I don't photograph well, as we know. But really, they want Janet there because Janet is black. So it's good to know that there are places that are trying. There are actually black models, and they can be paid, and you never get offered to be paid.
I did.
Did you once?
Yeah, I'm going to call it out as well because I love her and she's brilliant.
Oh.
She never asked me, I volunteered. I just said, I'd like to do it for you. And it's the fibre company, it was definitely, and I think she's on tonight, so definitely.
Hey, that was a proper modelling gig.
It was, but I mean, no, that was Soph as well.
Yeah, that was it, yeah. Proper modelled. That was a proper modelling gig.
Yeah.
This is for someone in the background that they, you know.
Yeah, I get asked. And it's a really difficult, it's a difficult one because there's a part of me that's like, I want, if that was my kids seeing those images.
It's really, that's crucial, isn't it?
Yeah, I want them to see that there are other people who do these things, who are like them, because they need to see themselves reflected in those images. But then on the other hand, I'm like, I can't be on every single promotional piece of material in Cumbria because people will just think, it's that woman again, she's everywhere, which is just weird. And see, go and pay some black models.
Yes, pay someone, pay a black model.
Pay me, but also pay some black real models and stop doing that token effort to diversity. So I've called a few companies out over the time and I've emailed them and gone, yeah, your promotional video is really white, but I don't see, really, really good, but I don't see me in there. Where am I? Where's my representation? And their response to me is that, you know, if you'd like to come along and do some photos for us, that would be great. And I'm like, no, I don't want to come and do some photos for you. I want you to do your homework and get some people in there because you are going to market to those people. You're going to market to black people in Birmingham and Manchester and Leeds and London. So show them that they are reflected and that you think about them. And that's what we were saying earlier on about businesses and images. And I have actually emailed several times. I'm not one to call people out publicly because I don't want people to get defensive. But I have emailed companies and said, it's not good enough, sort it out. And no, I won't do it for you unless you pay me a lot of money.
Very expensive rates. Sakanya Nalia, this is a fantastic...
Hey,
I know, super. This is a fantastic open discussion. We worry this too. I worry that people who could benefit from exposure to these conversations lack the self-awareness to join them. We also worry. If anything, actually, I think we've got so many great people in the room and it's actually phenomenal. Yeah, the problem with these forums is that a lot of people are already taking those steps. They may be baby steps. They may be taking them very, very slowly. They may only in these last couple of weeks have thought, actually, I need to stand up. I need to step up to the mark. There's something within me that needs to change. But they're open, as you say, to be able to come to these discussions. We can't get all the people in the room. Some people, when we put this out there, you know, I don't know if Tim's here tonight, but Tim had said, I'll share it on my forums, and one of the first comments he got back was something very unhelpful question. And that person probably isn't in the room tonight because they've already got a closed mind. And like we say, we're not going to win everybody over. And yes, it is a shame that we can't get them in this forum. And I did contact the BBC, not Radio Cumbria. They were great. They shouted about it. They got us on the radio. I did contact Border TV several times and said,
can you get this out there? Because there's some people who might not have been exposed to some of this stuff and would like to hear about it, and they never got back to me.
Which was a shame. Was a shame.
Some of those people might have been captured, Scandal.
I think as well, I guess this is where, and it sounds like we have a growing room of allies, this is where our role as allies to the cause is to continue the conversation beyond this forum. So we are going to share, like I said at the beginning, we are going to share a list of all of the links. I think we are also going to put this up on our website afterwards, and we will create a document. Someone's asked in here, an A4 summary to advise us what we and others who couldn't join can do to help. So we will do that. Yes, that is not a problem. That is not a problem at all. And then you will be able to access that forever and ever.
Yeah. And we'll keep adding to that as a resource. And I've already started talking to other, primarily at the moment, black women who live and work in Cumbria, who I know, some of who I know, some of who I don't, some of who are an extension of who I know. And I needed to do tonight because tonight has just consumed me. But after that, we are gonna start talking and watch this space. I guess is what I'm saying.
This is a really personal question, and I think we've been an hour and a half-ish, so I think we'll take a couple more and then we'll probably close, I think. Yeah, can you talk about how systemic racism, and this is up to you whether or not you choose to answer it, has had an impact on your life and your family's lives? Having examples helps me understand and become better aware. Being white, there are things that are so ingrained, and because of systemic racism, that it takes examples to wake me up.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. I can give you some examples, of course I can, and I will. I should also say that I think BBC Radio Cumbria are going to replay my story next week. They have my story every morning on BBC Radio Cumbria around 10 o'clock-ish, and they contacted me today and said, can we replay yours next week? And there is a lot of those sorts of examples in that story, if you care to tune in and hear more of them. Things that have happened to me over the years, I guess some things stick in your head more than others, and some things you're only reminded of them when something triggers that reminder. But one of the things that stuck in my head was, for all kinds of reasons, when we got to about 11 or 12, I'm from a family, I'm the youngest of 5, I've got 4 siblings, 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and for all kinds of reasons we moved out. We're from Leeds, and we moved out of Chapeltown, the area where a lot of the black community at that time lived, and we moved to another area of Leeds that didn't have many white people around. And we went to a school that was primarily white. There was me and my sister, and another family who had 2 people in that school, so 4 black people in that school, and that school was racist. There is no other way to call it out than that. And I remember sitting in an art class one day, and they said, today we're going to be drawing pictures of Africans. So everyone just turn around and have a look at Janet. As you can see, people like Janet have much broader noses, and their lips are a lot thicker. So when you're doing your drawings, and their hair's kind of wiry, it's a bit woolly. And when you're doing your drawings and your paintings, that's the kind of images that you need to be looking at. And this sea of white faces all turn to have a good old look at me and start sketching out their images. And the teacher turned and said to me and said, well, why are you doing your image? I was like, you can't say that. You can't tell a class that. It's just not. And I was only probably 12, and I knew that made me feel really, really, really tiny and inferior and not worthy and small, and all those things that cut away at you over the years. And her response to that was that I was being rude, and I was answering back a teacher, and that I either got on with the sketch or she was taking it to the head. And like I said at the beginning, I'm really not the person to call out. So of course, down went my pencil, and I was, do with me as you will. And off I was frog marched to the head teacher, who I genuinely believed was going to actually go, well, she's got a point. And the head teacher was as outraged as the teacher that I was taking umbrage with this, and that I was to apologise to the teacher for my rudeness and insolence, which I refused to do, and I was suspended. I had done nothing wrong. If that was in school today, even the sun would call that out. And so those kind of things stick with you forever. And can you imagine my kids going to a school that behaved in that way? We wouldn't tolerate it in this day and age, of course we wouldn't. But, you know, I went to the school in the 70s, the Race Discrimination Act came in the 60s. It meant nothing then, and now statistics show, and I've been a lawyer for 4 or 5 years, but I'm betting my bottom dollar that they haven't changed. The race discrimination is one of the hardest, no, not one of the hardest claim to actually win in an employment tribunal, because the hurdles to overcome are so ridiculously high. So lots have changed, but lots still haven't, and it's up to us to keep on pushing to get those changes in place.
I think as well, so much racism is actually subtle and insidious, and the way it can be twisted back to be your problem. I've been there. We've had these conversations with other people where you're the insensitive one, like in that situation. And I think sometimes that whilst it's really easy for us to sit and go, God, Janet, that's awful. I can't believe that happened to you. Thank God things aren't like that anymore.
Yes.
But actually now it's kind of, it's more subtle.
It's more subtle.
And then with the rise of the right, which is essentially what is happening right now, there's more subtle, and people are getting braver with their not so subtlety.
Yeah.
So we still have a really, really long way to go. I think when we hear that, and we hear that was in your childhood, it's easy to think, oh, but that's okay, because that doesn't happen now, but it still is.
It still happens, it just happens in different ways. It's just more subtle. It is just, so in the workplace, when you get the exchange of looks, or when your CV is better than somebody else's, but your name doesn't sound right, so we won't bother interviewing you, we'll take that person instead, thank you very much. It's insidious and it's hidden, and that is the scary part of it, and that is the part that needs to be called out. And all these companies that are coming out at the moment and saying, you know, we call it out, we stand with black people, we stand with the Blacklivesmatter campaign. I want to see them put their money where their mouth is, and I don't mean financially throwing money at the problem. I mean, I want to see them actually taking some proper action. I thought what Yorkshire Tea did the other day was great, but I want to see what it is they're sat back doing in 2 weeks' time. I want to see what they've come out with. I'm not letting them get away with that. L'Oreal have had to completely backtrack. The CEO of CrossFit, he got dismissed. Absolutely bang on right. And there's a groundswell, and we need to keep pushing it.
Yeah, we absolutely. A movement, not a moment.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I heard. I was watching the Black Lives Matter Leeds campaign, which was absolutely brilliant. And that was one of the things that the speakers were saying, a movement, not a moment. And you guys being here is actually part of that. There are so many comments, and I don't know if we've got to every single question, but I think if you could summarise for us, Janet, the things that as a 1, the things that we can do to help ourselves and to help the cause. Yeah,
of course. I've got to say before that I got to the stage yesterday and this evening that I really wasn't going to do it. I was always probably going to do it, but I really thought I'd made a huge mistake and I should not be doing this. There is a part of me that doesn't actually consider it my job. I am prepared to help you, to help yourselves, to maybe get started on that road of change. But you have to educate yourself. You have to make that change. I can't do it for you. And as I say, I'm not a priest. I cannot absolve you of making you feel better about whatever position you have decided to take. That is entirely and utterly your responsibility. But I am really glad that I did do it, that I have done it. I've stopped sweating, which is a good thing.
I've just started.
I'm pleased with the response. I am very aware of the comments about some people aren't in the room that would really benefit, and that just makes me sad. I hope all the people I thought would be here have at least dipped in for some of the time, or I hoped would be here, and want to start being an ally, being a proper ally. I hope people are starting to think about that more. Am I going to put myself out there and say, come to me with all your questions or any concerns or issues? I don't know. Actually, I'm tired and I have to look after my own mental health as well. And I have two beautiful girls that I also have to be there for. But I will help as best I can, is about as much as I can say. In response to the question that Soph asked me, what was the question? What can people do to help themselves?
Yes.
Educate. Education is the key. Listen. Hear, digest, internalise, get out of your comfort zone, deal with what's going on with you. Stop deflecting, stop dismissing, stop pretending that there isn't a problem or it's not that bad or we don't mean it, and start to clench your bum and go, crikey, I need to start doing something about this. It's horrible and I'm way out of my zone, but I'm going to give it a go and I'm going to make mistakes and I'm going to learn from them as well.
Janet, I love you so much.
Ditto.
Thank you. You are an angel and you're brilliant. The comments, the support that is in here for you is actually overwhelming, and I cannot wait to turn this all off and have a big glass of wine with you and talk through it all.
Put the heating on.
God, you will be freezing, I know.
I'm always cold.
You're absolutely right. It starts with us all. It starts inside yourself, and do you know what? There have been points I've looked inside myself and I haven't even liked some of the stuff, and you have to challenge that. Really, really think. Don't just let the first thought that pops into your mind be the thing that comes out of your mouth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Consider yourself, consider others. Thank you, Janet. Guys, we are gonna.
Before we turn off, one last final point. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine.
It is not our differences that divide us. It is our inability to recognise, accept and celebrate those differences. That was a quote from Andre Lorde, who was an activist and writer, and it is absolutely spot on. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks everybody. Thanks for everybody's support once again.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing and being honest and open as well.
Yeah, it is phenomenal.